You are live.
Okay. This is the Senate Education Committee on February 12th, 2 o'clock, after a 3-minute break. We're here now to hear Betsy Rosen on Farm to School Early Education, Early Childhood Awareness Day. Yeah, you're on. So actually, you don't know people on the table, do you? All of us.
Many familiar faces.
But we'll go around the table and introduce ourselves. We start over here with
Senator Kay Sharon Hinsdale, Chiffin, Southeast, each other.
Dave Waits, serving Rutland County.
Seth Bongart's Bennington District.
Terry Williams, serving Rutland County.
Steve Heffernan, Ennis County.
Great.
And then for the record,
And my name is Betsy Rosenbluth. I am the Farm to School Director at Shelburne Farms, but also part of a large network of the Farm to School and Early Childhood Network. And we are here with Farm to School Awareness Day to let you know the impacts of Vermont's investment in Farm to School and early childhood. And we have a few folks, hopefully will be on Zoom testifying as well, and some folks in person today.
No one's in yet, but I'm ready to let them in
Okay,
when they arrive.
okay. Okay. So we are here today to ask you to support the Vermont Farm to School and Early Childhood Grant Program and the local food incentive for schools, with level funded base appropriations of $500,000 for each program, which is in the governor's recommend. Every Vermonter should have access to the nourishing food that we produce in this state, and every child should have that nourishing food on their lunch tray, so that while we address readiness to learn and food insecurity, we're also building lifelong skills for better health and helping our Vermont farmers and the agricultural economy. That's the win-win of Farm to School. So thank you for having us here today to share our stories about the impact of this work on our students and our communities and our farmers. And what makes, I think, the Vermont Farm to School program unique is the integration of food access with local food purchasing and agriculture and food education. And we do this by connecting classrooms, the cafeteria, and communities and local farms. So we call it the 3C model of change: classroom, cafeteria, community connections. I just want to note, from so many students, almost half their daily nutrition comes from school meals. So it's really a critical opportunity to feed kids, but also to connect them both with the community and with the source of our food. So Vermont has invested in 3 key programs to improve student health and learning, as well as benefiting our farmers. So first is the Rosa McLaughlin Farm to School Grant Program that started in 2006 and has since served over 300 schools and early childhood programs in every county of the state. And we'll hear from the Agency of Agriculture today the impact of that program. Second is the Local Food Incentive Program that supports local purchasing, so that more of the about $25 million that Vermont schools spend on food every year, those dollars can stay with our Vermont farmers and with our Vermont economy. And over right now, about 2/3 of school food authorities are engaging with the local food incentive. So we're excited about that. And those schools, just last year's grantees from local food incentive reported spending about $1.2 million on local foods. So it's working. We definitely want the last third of Vermont schools participating as well, and we're working towards that.
well, what is that? What might be the reason that they're not?
I think there's been a little bit slower uptake with some of the food management companies. It's a little trickier to get the contracts to a place where that kind of buying works. there are some of the under-resourced schools that just need a little more, trying to do a lot of technical assistance to help them. And I can ask my colleague Gina as well for some of her thoughts. But there are over 100 farms in Vermont right now that are selling to either schools or early childhood programs. So it's been seriously a growing movement, and we are looked at nationally as leaders in what we're trying to do here. And the third program, which we're not going to talk about today, but is really integral to this, are universal school meals, which ensures equitable access to school meals for every student. And since as I mentioned, so many students receive about half their daily calories from school meals, we know it's essential for their health and for their learning and for their success to be accessing nourishing meals, but what's better than fresh Vermont products in those meals? So the three programs, you might have heard us talk about a virtuous cycle. If you have it's on the back of one of your handouts that looks better than mine in black and white. That just describes that the three programs work together as a virtuous cycle of farm to school and universal meals that increases student participation in school meals, which improves revenues in the meal program, which gives them more power to do more local purchasing, which again leads to more scratch cooked meals and participation, and that positive cycle just reinforces. And you'll hear from one of our food service directors today. He could talk some more about the details, how that works. So by integrating food access, food education, and local purchasing in schools, we are providing our children critical nutrition, and they're understanding what that food does for their own health, but also the health of their communities and our farmers. And they're building healthy habits and a connection to Vermont foods, we hope, for their lifetime. And we have some great anecdotal stories of students growing up from Vermont with Farm to School, and it stays with them. We're just hearing some fifth graders from Champlain Elementary talk about asking in the cafeteria, he was behind me in the line upstairs at lunch, asking the server whether that was, what kind of cheddar was on the line there. Cabbage cheddar. And it was like, is that aged cheddar?
Was that Muhammad?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. So we're looking for your support of level-based funding for both the local food incentive at $500,000 and for the Farm to School and Early Childhood Grants Program at $500,000. Thank you so much for having us here today.
Okay.
And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Senator Weeks.
Thank you. So with universal school meals, essentially between the federal government and the state government, we're buying the food. Is this now boiling down to simply the choice of where the food is sourced from, and why does it cost more to the direct for local purchasing versus syndicate?
Right. Yeah, I'll try to break out a couple of responses to that. Sometimes in season, there is no cost difference, but often you're getting raw, fresh product, not already packaged, and it could be a little more labor to actually process that. It's a little more, again, the Agency of Agriculture can talk a little bit about what we're doing to get that food to the loading dock, but sometimes it's a little more work to get that food delivered. It's not from the one broadline distributor. So we're using food hubs, sometimes direct relationships with farmers. So it isn't always more expensive, but it is a little more work, and it can be certainly, it's seasonal. Everybody's been very creative about purchasing seasonally in the winter, and more across Vermont. There's more Vermont beef being purchased that's local. There's a project to get local grains, and it's cheaper than commodity food that's being subsidized elsewhere that they can get, sometimes. And we're looking to replace those products. I don't know if that helped answer your question about cost. Not entirely. Okay,
I'm so
Too bad.
rural.
Yeah, it's too bad they weren't at Ag this morning. They gave a really good presentation
Yeah.
on. But it's because it costs us more to produce in Vermont than it does, from a worldwide distributor that they have, that they have bigger farms and access. I don't think they were able to tell us the margin of difference though. If it's 10% more, is it 20? I don't
we don't
think
have that exact number, but, and I will say, the program doesn't reimburse for, schools for buying local. It provides an incentive that then encourages them to do that extra work, to change the system they have to be a system that buys Vermont. And so the incentive is working. The Agency of Education Child Nutrition Program testified this morning that for the dollars that are being supplied through a local food incentive grant, it's 3 to 1 that are being leveraged that schools are spending on local food. So it isn't a reimbursement, but it's truly an incentive to change that system that's just gone basically towards efficiency, which is good, but it leaves out the fact that we want the dollars to stay in the Vermont economy.
Better food.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need to move on because I see we have a long list here.
Yeah.
Of people. So we have, by the way, we have 6 people, to do through the next 15 minutes. So we probably ought to think about, 5 or 6 minutes each just to make sure you all get a chance. So thank you. Next on the list is Sabrina McDonough from the Shrewsbury Mountain School. So introduce yourself, say hello.
So good afternoon, my name is Sabrina McDonough, and I am a 5th and 6th grade teacher at Shrewsbury Mountain School in Shrewsbury, Vermont. I am here in support of the Farm to School and Early Childhood Grant Programs and ask that you can continue to support these programs with level funding of $500,000 for the fiscal year of 2026. Additionally, please continue to support the local food incentive programs for schools at the $500,000 level funding base appropriation. These grant programs have helped our school create systems and structures which provide children with opportunities to connect directly with the food that they eat while also building relationships with community members. Previously, our school garden was only used by 1 or 2 classes. Funding from the Farm to School grant allowed us to make changes to the structure of the garden so that each classroom has its own bed, as well as adding fencing that created a more viable garden that could be used as an outdoor classroom space, which all teachers can access. This work has allowed more students direct experience with the garden while also promoting working relationships with local farmers and our local agricultural organization, SAGE, as we plan, prepare, and plant our beds. Not only do the students enjoy the experience of working outdoors and growing their own food, they are able to make connections with other curricular content, whether it is determining the volume and cost of soil for the raised beds or observing pollinators at work. These experiences are further enhanced by using the harvest from the garden when cooking. Through the grant funds, we were able to purchase and stock 2 cooking carts, which each class uses to create dishes from Vermont's Harvest of the Month program, sampling local produce and new and interesting recipes. Recently, our 3rd and 4th graders cooked lemon herb roasted beets, while my own students prepared sweet potato tater tots. Perhaps the event that best highlights students' connection to the garden and their willingness to try new foods is our Harvest Festival, where each class prepares a dish for the rest of the school to sample. This year, my class created an eggplant curry, a new tasting experience for most. This celebration of our work gives us the chance to gather as a community, recognizing the roles we all play in tending the garden. Along with our efforts for redesigning the garden, the Farm to School grant allowed us to plant a small orchard and implement a composting program. 2 years ago, all students from pre-kindergarten to 6th grade worked with staff from Retrius to prepare the ground and plant several fruit trees on our campus. The children were amazed at the longevity of this project, noting that many of them will be attending our local and middle and high school when we harvest the first fruits. This has not stopped them from appreciating the endeavor, and in fact, we have dedicated tree stewards in our 3rd and 4th grade students. Composting is the most recent system that we have adopted. Just as we have stewards for the trees, my 5th and 6th graders have become the leaders of composting. Grant funds allowed us to construct a shed and secure bins that will be a part of the school for years to come. I now turn this over to my students to share their thoughts. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Quinn and I'm in 5th grade at Shrewsbury Mountain School. When I was in 3rd grade, my school planted trees to create an orchard on a part of our playground. When I helped plant the trees, it brought our school together as a community. It helped me learn the process of planting trees and taking care of them too. We mulched the trees as well as digging out the snow around the trunks in winter to keep mice from ringing the young trees. Now, I'm in 5th grade. Our new 3rd and 4th graders take care of the orchard, which in years to come will give us apples, pears, and peaches for snacks and cooking. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Michaela Vader and I am in 6th grade at the Shrewsbury Mountain School. Today I'm going to be talking about our garden and why schools should be able to have one. All of the plants we have in the garden we use for cooking and making dishes with the class or to support the pollinators. In the 5th and 6th grade class, we help out in our garden by taking care of the weeds and putting mulch down so we can plant more things. I think that the garden is a way that can bring the community together because we all have to work together to make sure that the garden is healthy. One thing I have thought about the garden is that we all have a part in taking care of it, so I think that it brings some responsibility to your actions. We even have an eco-friendly decomposition system. When we have scraps of food at lunch or snack, we have a compost bin that we take out to our decomposition system where we turn our compost into fertilizer for the garden so that the food doesn't just go to a landfill and damage the environment even more. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Benna McGowan.
And my name is Ellie McDevitt. We are in 6th grade and we go to Shrewsbury Mountain School.
We are here to talk about the composting system in our school and why we think you should support programs like this.
Our 5th and 6th grade classroom started using the composting system this October, and it has helped us learn more about systems in our environment in ways that we wouldn't be able to learn in a classroom. Composting has helped us better understand the process of food and matter breaking down in an ecosystem.
Twice a week, 3 of the students in our class go out to our composting shed with a volunteer. We use a recipe which includes food scraps and other materials to make sure that our compost is healthy. We also gather data to monitor and observe the health of our compost pile. Recently, we have noticed that the compost temperature has risen almost 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which shows that it is starting to become active. On days that our school does not compost on site, the leftover food supports a local farm that raises pigs.
It is important to keep this program and others like it going because it helps us learn more about how to protect the environment so that kids in the future can have the same opportunities that we have. Kids at our school volunteer and enjoy this activity because they want to learn more about how composting can help our school and local communities as well as the planet as a whole.
It was good for us to have these opportunities to use our resources better and use the compost to enrich the soil of our garden rather than buying new soil and putting food scraps into a landfill.
We have had this opportunity to learn as well as interact with community members. Kids in the future at Shrewsbury, as well as other schools around Vermont, deserve to have this chance as well.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
That was helpful, and it's clear that they enjoy what you're helping them do. So
Did you have any questions for us?
it's probably almost, I hate to say it, but it's almost just as well if we don't because we have to get through so many people. But that was really nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. So next is Reed Blossom. Is that right?
Hi, Basim.
Basim. And I'll let you introduce yourself. Tell us why you're here.
Great. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Reeve Basim. I live in Glover and I work in Hardwick as the place-based education coordinator at the Center for an Agricultural Economy. And in that role, I partner closely with the schools in the Orleans Southwest Supervisory Union. I'm also a member of the Vermont Farm to School and Early Childhood Network. And I just want to thank you all for your time and attention today. The Farm to School and Early Childhood Grants and the local food incentive have such significant positive impact across the state. And I urge you to please support the level funding for both of these programs at $500,000 each. Today, I'm at Hazen Union School, where I co-facilitate a class called A Recipe for Human Connection. And I'm with, it was going to be 2 students. One of them is sick at home today, so I'm here with 1 student, but you have testimony from both in your written materials. They're both students who are part of the Recipe for Human Connection class, which is a class that is currently being supported through funding from the Farm to School Vision Grant. And it's a class that explores how food helps us connect and build community. Through shared recipes, harvesting, cooking, farm field trips, and community meals, the class creates a space for students to grow their collaboration and communication skills, develop shared vision, build relationships and belonging across difference, and offer something meaningful and tangible to the community. When a beloved community meal that had existed in Hardwick for decades was shuttered during the pandemic, Hazen students were instrumental in bringing it back. Now, each month at the Hardwick Community Lunch, Recipe for Human Connection students prepare a hearty, delicious, free meal featuring local ingredients and serving over 100 people. This intergenerational, challenging, and highly rewarding undertaking brings people together from across the community, engaging students directly in local food systems, social resilience, and community food security. And you are all invited to come anytime to the community lunch. It's every 3rd Thursday of the month from noon to 1 p.m. at the United Church of Hardwick. And it happens all year long, even during the summer. So please stop by if you're hungry on a 3rd Thursday and you happen to be in the Kingdom. The Farm to School and Early Childhood programs provide key support for this class, as well as so many other valuable projects and innovative programs across the state. These programs are helping students and communities flourish. Please support the level funding of both the Farm to School and Early Childhood grants and the local food incentive program. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm now going to turn it over to Ginger, who is a student from the Recipe for Human Connection class, who's here with me.
My name is Ginger Bally. I'm from Greensboro, Vermont, and I'm in 11th grade at Hazen. Recipe for Human Connection class has been really important to me. In 7th and 8th grade, I didn't talk to anyone, but in 9th grade, I joined Recipe for Human Connection class and it helped me become more social and build confidence. I really love the community meal. At the community meal, we are there all day long, cooking and working together, and we have to communicate really well to make it happen. When we serve food, we're socializing with the people we are serving to, so that really helps with communication. There are times when we have little dance parties while we are cooking, so it's very joyful. We also had the opportunity to interview people at the meal and write an article for the Hardwick Gazette. I had never thought of myself as a journalist before, and it was fun to get feedback from people and share about our experiences from the community. And thank you for listening, and I hope you continue to fund for the Farm to School programs.
We do have time because you two were fairly quick, so we have time for a question if somebody has one. Here we go, Senator Weeks.
So the $500,000 asset, how is that equally distributed among schools? Is it all schools in the state that get that?
Yes, well, we're going to have the 2 agency representatives shortly speak to that. But both those programs are available to any school in the state. And the reach has been, especially with the grants program that's been around longer, every county in the state has, schools in every county have received grant funds.
Okay, thank you.
So in your program, as you're doing it, during this time of year, it must be a little tougher to find the vegetables and stuff you do, or what do you use? More potatoes and stuff that's been refrigerated?
Is that a question for us?
Yes, yes.
We, it's it's a fun process trying to figure out what kind of meal is doable for such a large group, a community meal where we're serving 100 people. And some of those are deliveries to folks who can't leave home. So it has to be something we can package up as well. And we have a mix of using things that are local and fresh, and then other ingredients that may not be quite as seasonal, but we have access to some really wonderful partners who help us provide donations and local produce. And we, during the fall, we made an incredible carrot ginger soup because we had so many good carrots coming right from the Hazen greenhouse. There's wonderful cabbage and carrot shred that we get from the CAE's Just Cut veggie program that we usually use to make a big salad or coleslaw. And we have Pete's Greens up in our area too, and that's another frequent source. But we also do a lot of our shopping very locally at the co-op and other businesses that feature local products, so we can get those products through some of those other local businesses as well.
So you use as much local as you can, but it doesn't mean we're always getting local.
Correct.
So, Reba, I want to ask your student one question. It sounds like you put in a lot of time on those Thursdays, and probably the prep ahead of time. What motivates you to do that? Why do you put in all the work?
Because it's just nice to be able to like do stuff for the community and just like help out. So like knowing that you're helping like give meals out to the community like motivates you to help like prepare and everything.
That's great.
Can I also add that the reason why we do the community meal is because students advocated to include that as part of our class. So we actually redesigned the class to incorporate that project based on students having experienced the meal and wanting to be a part of it.
That's great. Thank you.
I might have missed this. Is it the whole? Is it 11th grade? You said, or which?
It's open to students in all of the high school grades.
And how many participants do you roughly get to do that?
So the class right now, we're running two sections, which they both meet every day, and there's about 12 kids in each group. And usually it's between 6 and 10 kids who help out with each month's meal. So we kind of rotate through so that everybody has a chance to help out as often as possible with that meal.
Well, thank you so much. And thanks for everything you're doing, both of you.
Good to be with you.
Okay. Next we have Bob Hildebrand.
He will be here soon.
Okay, so we'll skip him for a minute, then pick up when he's here. Gina?
Yeah.
Yeah. So introduce yourself, tell us why you're here and what you do,
Sure thing.
what your connection is.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gina Clitheroe. I use she, her pronouns. I'm with the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. I'm our Farm to Institution Program Manager. And I'm here to talk about the agency's Farm to School and Early Childhood Grant Program, which Reeve and Sabrina both spoke about the impacts that you can see in real life, but this is it in paper form and numbers. So I'd like to pass these around. You should also have the digital copy available that I sent over email. So
Do all get hands off to these.
well, this
take the gloss.
version is formatted really beautifully. Okay.
Do you want it back or?
That's okay. Great. So the Farm to School and Early Childhood Grants Program, as I believe Betsy mentioned, started in 2006, or the first grant happened in 2007, with the 2006 passage of the Rose McLaughlin Farm to School Act. And that charged the agency with providing grants to schools and early child care programs and nonprofit service providers to support farm to school education across the state. So the focus of these funds, which is listed in the statute as well as described in the report, is to improve the health, nutrition, and learning outcomes for students and children, to integrate interdisciplinary agricultural education into Vermont classrooms, to connect kids and families with their local community and their local agricultural community in particular, and to strengthen markets for Vermont grown and produced products. Since 2006, over 300 grants have been awarded, totaling over $2.3 million. And these grants have reached 160 early childcare programs and over 158 schools. In this most recent fiscal year, which is the focus of the report, that I provided here is there were 73 grants awarded. And to address your question, Senator Williams, yes, grants have reached every county in the state. And in this past year of grant funding, we reached all but 2 in FY24. It looks like Grand Isle and Essex did not get any grants this year, but they are open to all.
So how's that coming through the county? County doesn't have a government. Is there through the
It's the
schools?
schools, it's individual schools and childcare programs apply and nonprofits. Yeah. So within,
It's gonna be.
okay. So this is through this one $500,000 bucket, we break it out into 3 different grant programs to help meet the unique needs of schools and early childcare programs of different scales. And so we offer the capacity building grant, which is kind of the flagship funding opportunity. It involves both grant money and also access to technical assistance and coaching to support schools in reaching their farm to school goals and really building and sustaining robust farm to school programs that last, far beyond whether, one passionate teacher has to retire, that kind of thing. And then we have the Vision Grant Program, which supports larger projects up to $50,000 that promote youth leadership and community engagement. And Reeves' team at the Center for an Agricultural Economy was awarded a Vision Grant to do their work in partnership with the local community meals. And then the Vision Grant is our 3rd grant program, and that one is really tailored towards small family childcare programs and early education programs and after school programs to directly reimburse them for purchasing a CSA and connecting with their local farmer. And so each year the agency assesses these 3 programs and adjusts our offerings to best meet the needs of the educational community. So far we are now in fiscal year 25, and so far 8 capacity building grants were awarded this year, and those projects are just about to get off the ground in March. And we have another funding opportunity opening at the end of February, which is the Vision Grant Program. So those applications are going to be opening soon. We're really excited to see what we get. We are pausing the CSA grant for FY25, which was a really difficult decision that the agency had to make. We received a one-time grant from USDA for the Local Food for Schools and Childcare Program. It's a $1.2 million award. And we are going to use that funding to reach, hopefully, all 230 eligible early childcare programs, in addition to all school food authorities in Vermont. And for more information on that USDA grant program and also some other work that the agency has done for our institution space, such as our work with corrections and our work on dairy education, you can flip to the last couple of pages in the report. Those are not directly funded, and with respect to this Rosa McLaughlin Act that we're talking about here, but are just important context about what's been happening in the farm to school landscape in the past year. So yeah, this grant report kind of gives an overview of the program and what we've been up to. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
So back to my original question, I was looking at your capacity grant.
Yep.
Rutland County is not on there.
Right.
And the CSA grant, the
Mhm.
Parent-Child Center, I think, is involved in. How are we making sure that everybody knows about the grant and that every school that wants to is getting a chance to participate.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we are actively trying to work on, is building more relationships with we're really leveraging the Farm to School network as a tool to reach a lot of these schools. And there's been additional resources to support building up of Farm to School support, especially in Rutland County and also Bennington County, which their early childhood community Bennington is doing great, but it's K-12 Bennington schools are not as actively involved in Farm to School, and same with Rutland County. So those are areas that we know we are not seeing a lot of grant money going to, but we know that there are a lot of farms there. And so we are trying to build up the network's engagement there. There have been a couple of regional gatherings supported by the Farm to School network, trying to help connect those schools to the resources available at the state level. But we also do outreach about the grant program through a variety of methods, including listservs, putting it out through the agency's communication channels. But yeah, we're always, and through lots of partner listservs, but we're always trying to expand the reach. So happy to hear any ideas you might have as well.
Well, I want to farm, they used to be milk certified. And I couldn't sell my vegetables. I didn't have a market for it. So sometime I'll come in and talk to the ag committee about what we really need is some kind of a cooperative where people that have vegetables that could go over programs like this and actually sell to the cooperative.
Right.
And not everybody, I had 10 acres of vegetables in cultivation. And they basically, in a cooperative, you wouldn't get to grow, you could grow everything you wanted to, but they wouldn't necessarily agree to buy everything you had, but so.
Yeah, I don't think we have anyone testifying from the food hubs in this committee right now, but the Vermont Food Hub Network has done an amazing job at being that intermediary, connecting farms and schools. And so, yeah, I think there's been a lot of growth in that area, especially in the last few years.
Thank you.
7 weeks.
Thank you. Do you have more applicants than you do resources?
We do. We have.
How
So
do you prioritize?
all of our grants go through a competitive review process involving folks from the agency as well as partners to review and score them. And and we make a decision based on the which applications are really going to be strongest and most successful funded.
And do you try to rotate schools so year to year they're different, or is the program to kind of kickstart a program, say take Mountain School in Shrewsbury?
Right.
You give them a grant 1 year, they kind of self-perpetuate for a couple more years. Is that the concept?
It's a good question, and one that I think we're still kind of trying to figure out. We don't allow schools that have an active capacity building grant to reapply while they're still kind of underway, because they're 1.5 year long grant projects. But we have had programs that come back and apply 2 years later and get funded again. Most recently in this last batch of grant recipients that we've awarded for FY25, we have a school that has received a capacity building grant before, but this year they're actually focused on supporting other early childhood educators in their community. So they are kind of actively scaling out, and we've talked about adding that in as another kind of incentive for these programs that have gotten a lot of traction and do have buy-in now from the administration and from the food service. They're a pretty solid program, but they want to do more. We're trying to figure out what we're going to ask for them that's different, and maybe it is asking them to partner with other schools and share some of their knowledge and processes with them.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, thanks so much for your time.
No, we're fine too.
Yes, you do. My contact information is on the back here.
It's Robert, yeah. Okay. All right, then it's Connor.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Connor Floyd, the Grant Programs Manager at the Agency of Education, and I administer the local foods incentive. But before jumping into that, just to touch a little bit more on what Gina had mentioned. So we have identified that Bennington-Rutland corridor is kind of a spot with less activity, or at least accessing fewer state resources. And so the Agency of Education received a farm to school grant from USDA a couple of years ago at this point, and we use that money to contract with a couple of different nonprofit partners to mainly support the local foods incentive, provide resources to food service directors, some backbone support to our local foods list. But we did specifically call out Bennington and Rutland County, and so there are funds going to making connections there. There's some additional money for kind of like networking events, pull together. Because as we said, it's not like there isn't stuff happening there. It's just maybe that there isn't as clear coordination, or for whatever reason, they're not accessing those resources. So I was recently meeting with the Vermont Farmers Food Center, and they mentioned that it feels like there's a renewed interest there. So we are excited to hopefully see more happening in that region. But so talking about the local foods incentive, I'll provide a brief overview of the program and then jump into some key highlights from this year. So the local foods incentive is has another $500,000 appropriation. That's the grant program is essentially split into two different tracks. So there's that baseline year grant, which is intended to be an on-ramp for school food authorities when they're engaging with the program for the very first time. To receive a grant award for that first year, you submit a pretty basic application. There's the intention is to have schools thinking about what do we need to do to shift our purchasing away from, national products and focusing more on Vermont produce. Once that application is approved, the school will receive a 15 cents per lunch grant award. There's no purchasing requirement for that baseline year grant. Once you receive that grant, any year thereafter, the school food authority is eligible to apply for a subsequent year grant. And that's when we're checking their purchasing and ensuring that they're hitting 15% local at least. There's 3 grant tiers. There's 15%, 20%, 25%, and the grant awards scale as well. 15 cents per lunch, 20 cents, 25 cents. Roughly speaking, we're looking at like around $30,000 annual grant awards. Again, it totally depends on how many lunches they're serving and what tier they hit. But just thinking about what a grant looks like, broadly speaking, $20,000 to $30,000. So yeah,
Can I just ask a
certainly.
question about the 15%? I'm just wondering why you landed on that number and why you can't make it higher.
Like, why can't it go up to 30% and
Yeah.
35%?
Yeah.
So I wasn't a part of the conversations when the grant program was enacted, right? Written. I think, I don't know, Betsy, if you have any historical, I don't know if that just felt like kind of the right kind of threshold. What I can say is we had last year, we had one school food authority that exceeded 30%. So if there was a 30% tier, they would have received a higher grant award. But right now we're seeing that it's very difficult to get 15%. And we didn't have any this year that exceeded 25%.
I was just curious.
Yeah, no, big question. And hopefully that does become more of a problem, right? That means we're being successful with the grant program. And finally, just thinking when we're talking about local, that means a lot of different things to different people. For this program, that means Vermont local. That's a definition that the Agency of Agriculture has. So it's got to be Vermont local products in order for it to qualify. So now jumping into some key takeaways from this year, we sent along an annual report about a week or so ago, and so that should be available online. And I'll cover the 4 kind of key points, but that report also has detailed data tables. If you want to dig into any specific school food authority, see their lunches served, the grant awards, all those kinds of things. But really, there's 4 key points that I wanted to highlight here. The first is that we had a doubling in our subsequent year grantees this year. So last year, 6 school food authorities were able to hit 15% local purchasing. This year we had 12. It's a really encouraging jump, just in terms of engagement. That shows a lot of hard work from those school food authorities to shift their purchasing.
6 new ones.
6, there's some shifting. don't know off the top of my head. I think some from last year fell off. And so there's always a little bit, especially around that 15% tier. Some make it 1 year, then don't for whatever reason the next. But a lot of new ones this year. And I think we've also seen there's a pretty good mix in terms of free and reduced percentages of those school food authorities, which just shows there's a more economically diverse school food authorities that are able to access this, which is encouraging because that's one concern we had in the first couple of years. The second point is that 1/3 of the eligible school food authorities haven't engaged at all, right? So about 20 school food authorities haven't applied for that baseline year grant, which is really it's a low bar to be able to receive that initial grant award. What we hear when we do talk to those school food authorities is they're nervous about committing to needing to buy more local purchasing later on down the road, which there is no commitment, right? You can get that initial grant award and then not engage with the program if you so choose. We try to message that as maybe this is going to kickstart a program. Each year, a couple more school food authorities receive a baseline year grant. We had 6 new ones this year, so I think that number will continue to tick down. On the flip side, that means that 2/3 of all school food authorities in the state have engaged in some way with this grant program. Next, and kind of thinking about those baseline year grants, every year up until now, the grant awards have gone down, right? So we started at like $480,000 that first year that went out the door, and it was a little bit less and a little bit less. The reason behind that was that fewer school food authorities were eligible for that baseline year grant, which was much easier to receive, right? Once you hit that, you get that first year grant, you need to actually start doing that 15% local purchasing, which is not easy. And so it's exciting this year to see it go back up, right? And so we've kind of flipped that curve, and we're seeing, I think, with more engagement going from 6 to 12 subsequent year grantees, those grant requests continuing to increase. And so $384,818 is what we awarded this year in grant funds through this program, both subsequent year and baseline year grants. And then finally, generally speaking, what we're seeing is that for every $1 in grant funds that goes to those subsequent year grantees, those that are required to at least do 15% local purchasing, that $1 in grant funding reflects about $3 in local purchasing that program is doing. So there's that kind of 1 to 3, return on investment that we're seeing just as the data emerges. That seems to be pretty consistent year on year at this point. So I'll leave it there, but I'm happy to answer any questions folks may have.
Sorry.
No, I was for some thoughts.
Well, you're calling it out. So I do remember this conversation from last year or the year before. And I remember that part of the conversation revolved around schools changing their processes to access local food. So every school is trying to kind of figure out the system on how to do it, who to contact. Seemed like a lot of repetition. And the conversation at the time was, well, why not incentivize the local food distributors to do exactly what you're doing so that the school just reaches out to the same provider, but the provider gets incentivized for doing 15% or 20% or something like that. And then the distribution system begins to kind of fall in line with the intent, which the intent is to use more local foods as opposed to wherever foods. But it doesn't seem like that tactic is, I don't know.
Then the farmers can use that local source too.
So are you saying like a distributor would be the one that would?
Yeah, the distributor gets incentivized for increasing the volume of locally produced food and distributing it into the system as opposed to each individual school trying to figure out how to do that. And then, so they're contacting the bulk provider as they were in the past, and they're contacting potentially a variety of farmers and what food providers. Just seems a lot more efficient that you just incentivize the food distributors instead. We'll give you an incentive.
Right. Without speaking to the merits of that kind of approach, I think what currently is happening is that the regional food hubs, and so we have a pretty good network of food hubs in Vermont, are filling that role and filling that gap. And so the vast majority, I look at a lot of the backup documentation to make sure, okay, a school hit 15%, and to look at all of the purchases that you did to verify that. And a small little bit is actually like, oh, I bought potatoes from this farm down the road. The vast majority is already either coming from the broadline distributor in Vermont, is right, Performance Food Service Group. So a lot of purchasing is coming from them, local purchasing is coming from them, as well as those food hubs. And so I think it's more right now what's happening is that it's the market, the customer demand, which we're incentivizing through paying the schools. And the food hubs, I think, are really stepping up. We have that additional funding, the Local Food for Schools, which is the USDA program that Gina mentioned. That money is going through the food hubs. And what we say is, if you buy Vermont local with that money, because they could choose to buy Massachusetts products instead, but if you do Vermont local, that counts towards this. So we're trying to staff these different programs exactly to that point.
Can I ask just, what's a food hub?
No, it's a great question.
Is it commercial or is it nonprofit?
Generally speaking, at least in Vermont, what a food hub is it's a nonprofit organization that's trying to be like a mid-sized distributor. So effectively what they're doing, they're aggregating food. So they're buying from a bunch of different farms, they're holding it in their storage, and then it's a place for a school or a hospital or a restaurant to go and order, just like on Amazon, right? That one online catalog to be able to purchase that food.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, good. Okay.
Governor, just a quick about being that you were the nutrition program. Mishka Johnson was in from White Valley School, and this I think is a great idea that they finally programmed 8 schools to run under one menu. We're kind of getting used to, but that automatically, helps your buying power more. Are you?
So we're doing, I think, a lot of work on our team trying to find more of that efficiency. Right, we have a school food authority is the kind of entity that we operate with, which is typically a supervisory union or school district. What we like to see from our team is one food service director that's managing operations for that entire supervisory union. Exactly to that point. Why would you have 8 different menus? You're buying different things. It just, there's a lot of.
You'll get the individuality of the school in that, but it's like lunches can be.
So I think you're familiar with that kind of, and we work on that as well. So that is certainly something we've identified, and I think the best programs we see are the ones that are doing exactly that. They're centralizing a lot of that to scale up.
We have to get through 2 more witnesses in about 8 minutes. So,
well, thank you for your time.
Unless it's really quick, something Senator Williams, you would.
No, I'm just thinking that because Vermont has such a short growing season, and it takes X number of days to grow an eggplant or a tomato. Pretty much everybody plants the same time, and the crop is ready to be consumed at the same time too. So that everybody having the same menu would make sense, because unless you grow under plastic, unless you have greenhouses.
Eggplant today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was helpful.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the time today. I was just editing my testimony before I came down to the State House today, so I will post it up on your website this afternoon. Figure out how to do that.
Send it to me.
Send it to you?
Yeah, real flattery.
I'll get here.
Yeah, I'm on the website. Yeah.
Perfect.
And maybe just because of time, I see you got 2 pages there.
I'll be quick.
You get your highlights.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to address the importance of the Farm to School and Vermont Universal School Meal Programs in our state. I'm Robert Hildebrand. I'm a resident of Montpelier, Vermont, and I'm the food service director with the Abbey Group. I currently manage the 6 schools in the Central Vermont Supervisory Union, another 3 schools in Orange East Supervisory Union, and also the cafeteria in this building. So, problem with Brian, let me know. Today, we're asking you to continue to support the Farm to School and Early Childhood Program with level funding base appropriation of $500,000 for the fiscal year 2026. And also support the local food incentive programs for schools at the $500,000 level funding base appropriation. In addition, we're asking you to oppose the proposed repeal of Vermont's Universal School Meals Program in the governor's fiscal year 26 budget. And I'm gonna start paraphrasing here, but basically, the Universal School Meal Program in Vermont has been a huge success story since its inception under COVID in 2020. It supports Vermont children with the fuel that they need to be successful learners. This fostered an atmosphere of inclusion around shared meal times and has been a vital component of our ability to support Vermont farmers and food producers through increased purchases of local foods. That's done so in a very fiscally efficient manner, costing much less than originally planned. We have long known that children, those of us in the child nutrition field have long known that students don't have equal access to nutritious food outside of the school day. And prior to universal school meals, this also inequality extended to the school day. Without going into the particulars on the universal school meal program, we're going to cut to the chase of why it's good for Vermont farms. The universal school meal program has allowed school meal programs to greatly increase their spending on local Vermont produced foods. In the schools that I manage at Central Vermont Supervisory Union, we increased our purchases of Vermont foods to over $52,000 last year. It's translated to a bit over 18% of our total purchase spending on foods. We focus on product categories that will make a big impact on our purchasing: beef, yogurt, apples, maple syrup, for example. We have developed strong relations with our local producers, and we've been working with many of them for a number of years. Here's how it works for us. When we have universal school meals, more children eat school meals. This increased participation gives us much greater labor production efficiency, and allows us to increase the percentage of the program's revenue that we can afford to spend on food. This allows us the flexibility to pay a little more for local foods versus vegetables. Connor was talking about the 3-to-1 payback. What that means is for every dollar that I get that comes through on the local food incentive, and it comes through for us, it comes through a little differently, but basically we can use that money to leverage something that might be a little bit more expensive and justify that purchase of something that's a bit more expensive, but is produced locally. Farmers know that they can count on the income and they can adjust their production and sales plans accordingly, and it becomes a very virtuous cycle. The Universal School Meals Program has been a big success in Vermont. We're feeding more children than under the old system. We're buying much more locally produced Vermont food. Vermont families who are struggling to meet the high cost of living can be assured that their children are at least getting nutritious meals while at school. Children can just eat a meal when they need without worrying about how it makes them look or if it's putting their family into debt. This is all happening at a pretty minimal cost to Vermont taxpayers. In closing, we're asking you again for the support on continued funding of farm to school and local foods incentive programs at the current $500,000 level for each program, and for your support preserving universal school meals that has been such a success here in Vermont.
You did a good job. Any questions? Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was such a quick wheel.
Yeah, I
Witness last, Rosie.
Oh, I don't have prepared testimony. I'm just here in case you have questions.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Well,
I've been on the
I
line.
made everybody else go fast. Oh, okay. Thank you. That really, really helpful and informative, and we'll need to hear it. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having
Yeah,
us
yeah.
today. And if you have any questions, of course, follow up.
Yeah, we will.
Happy to.
Will has everybody's contact info.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You may well hear from us. Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to go off? Yeah, I want to go off.